Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Kevin Pollak Chat Show. I am, believe it or not, still Chat Show. Very excited about today's show. We are in the, we're not in our normal surroundings at the West Side Comedy Theater. We're at the lovely home of our guest here in the Beverly Hills. We had to close that curtain all the way. Oh, no, the sliding door. The gentleman that was helping, oh yeah. So Jamie's now going to adjust the sliding door apparatus. And man, oh man, let me tell you, from my vantage point, she did it in a beautiful fashion.
She was fantastic.
Yeah, it's a first
well
for the
done,
show,
Jamie.
and one that I'm very excited about. So normally we come to you from the West Side Comedy Theater. Today from the home of our guest, which I'll introduce in just a moment. Sammy?
Yes, buddy.
Before we speak, I have to congratulate Jamie on the show. We spoke a couple of shows ago about her Pittsburgh Penguins entering into the Stanley Cup for the second year in a row. And last night, Jamie?
Yes, we won our 5th Stanley Cup.
Can you give us one detail?
It was very exciting. Well, there was no score for the majority of the game.
All three periods.
All 3 periods. And
Typical hockey.
And in the last 90 seconds, the Pittsburgh Penguins managed to score a goal off the back of the Nashville Predators goalie.
Off the opposing goalie's back.
And
they scored.
Yes, and then the Predators then pulled their goalie so they could have an extra man on the ice. And then we scored again in the last 13 seconds of the game.
Off a ye old open net.
Yes.
Oof.
Yeah.
So we won 2-0. And then I was listening to a little recap afterwards, and it was pointed out to me that the Predators did not score any goals in the past 2 games of the Stanley Cup Finals, which was a nice little dig.
Yeah. So congratulations to the Predators, barely a hockey team of 18 years.
Oof.
Sam, are you excited for your surroundings?
I am exceedingly excited for these surroundings. And also, today is, not for nothing, my father's birthday, June the 12th.
Harris Levine.
Happy birthday to Dr. Harris Levine.
Dr. Harris Levine.
DDS. I was just about to say DDS.
Celebrates another birthday today.
Celebrates another one, I think,
the day
today,
of this recording.
I believe he is 69 today.
You believe. Always a good son, Sam. He believes he knows his father's age.
Do you know your parents' age?
That's impressive.
Of course. He was born in 48. How tough is this?
Okay.
So let's drop the I believe. All right, let's keep our guest waiting no longer, shall we?
Indeed.
We'll skip the rest of the normal preamble. We'll perhaps dovetail some in later in post-production. But we're unbelievably excited. We've been invited to the home of Mr. Carl Reiner. Carl.
Before I talk, what kind of doctor is your father?
Oh, he's a dentist.
A dentist, okay.
Yes.
So really hardly a doctor.
Yeah, no, he flunked out of medical school. Couldn't cut it.
Okay, now we're set. Now I know everything I need to know.
Yeah. This lovely home, and thank you for having us to it. You've been in this house since
1961.
That is correct. 61, so that would be the beginning of the Dick Van Dyke Show?
Exactly.
Yeah?
Exactly.
So how soon before that had you moved to Los Angeles?
We moved here for the Dick Van Dyke
So
Show.
this was the first and only home.
Right.
Look at you.
Look at me.
How many times over the years has someone said, you really should move, get a bigger, a smaller, or something else? And
as a matter of fact, I was here in Akim Tamirov's house a year before because I did a movie here and I rented a house on Alta Drive. So, but then we bought this one.
Right. And that was it. You said, this is a winner, we're going to stay here.
Yeah, forever. It's going to be a Viking funeral when I go.
Well, you've got a pool, so that'll be easy.
I respect that he's a nester. People are always we've been in our home for 7 years now, and just because the neighborhood is getting more and more popular, people want us out of it, and I have no intention of leaving.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Like, I'm a nester as well.
Yeah, here's hoping we can afford to stay there. So, Carl, I don't know if you remember the very first time we had any sort of connection whatsoever. This may surprise you. I had just moved to Los Angeles, so the year maybe 1983, 84. And when I learned to do impersonations back then, I would put them on my outgoing voice answering machine, which you had back then. A machine with a tape in it.
Yes.
Right? And the voice I chose was Albert Brooks. He was someone that I was learning to do. So I left this message on my outgoing machine. Hi, Kevin's not here. Leave a message. Call back. I don't care. I'm going to go lie down. I'm nauseous. And then I was getting... a lot of people would call and then hang up. They wouldn't leave a message. I mean, 15, 20 calls hang up, which is quite rare for the setting. And then finally, I hear your voice. Hi, this is Carl Reiner. That's amazing. I don't know if you've heard what's been happening, but a lot of people are calling your machine. And you hung up. And so I was dancing around the apartment. I couldn't believe it. And then, you know what? I've inverted the story. The first message was from Rob, your son. Hi, this is Rob Reiner. You don't know me. I grew up with Albert. That's not him in the movies. That's him around the house. Congratulations. And he hung up. And I'm dancing around the apartment. I was too nervous to pick up the phone. And then several calls later is when you called.
Right.
And you were leaving the message. And by then, I had enough time to have regretted not picking up the phone when your son Rob called. And I was ready to talk to a Reiner. So I actually picked up the phone and we spoke for a couple of minutes. I have the worst memory ever. But now I'm remembering. And you said... part of what I said, which was, do you know what's been happening? And then you explained that your business partner, George Shapiro, longtime manager, Jerry Seinfeld and others, had called you because Jerry and I were friends, and Jerry was one of the comedians who had called and heard the outgoing message,
right.
And he told George Shapiro, and George told you because Albert Brooks, of course, grew up with Rob in your home,
right.
Running around as friends, which are stories we're going to get to. So that's when you explained all of that to me. And then you told me that Albert had called because Rob told him to, but he didn't leave a message, and he called Rob right back and said, is that really the way you think I sound, Rob? Really? It sounds like my Uncle Zeke. So having that was one of my early introductions to anyone from real show business. I had moved from San Francisco, where I started as a stand-up comedian, and my first introduction was a phone call from the Reiners. So now getting to the stories of you and Albert Brooks growing up in your home with your son, Rob. At what age is Albert before you start to realize, this kid's unfairly funny?
Well, Albert was 6. Rob and he were together from high school on, and as a matter of fact, they were Reiner and Brooks. Mel and I had done the 2000. And he brought Albert over one day, and he's sitting right where you're sitting. And this is the exact room, and Rob says that he's the world's greatest escape artist. And he's 16, remember?
16
years old.
Right.
A prodigy comedian at 16 is rare that can make adults laugh.
Yeah.
So he gives me a handkerchief, and he folds it, he gives me his wrists. He says, tie me up. I lay the handkerchief atop his wrists, and it's hanging up, about to tie it. He says, that's good enough.
You hadn't tied it yet.
Now I can't move my hands. Stick some Kleenex in my nose, and I stick Kleenex in his nose, and now I can't breathe. I can't breathe and I can't move my hand. He says, if I beg you, do not try to help me. I will get out of this in 10 seconds. And he goes to that, he stands up by the curtain over there.
Right.
And he starts to try to, he goes behind the curtain, he goes behind the curtain.
Sure.
He says, in 10 seconds I will emerge from the curtain with my hands untied. And he struggles behind the curtain for about. I got so hysterical. I left through that door, went into the kitchen, was afraid to come back because I knew I'd die. I came back, and now he's on the floor. He's on the floor. He's writhing on the floor, and he calls, "Carl, help me, help me, help me!" And I go to him, and I say, "You really want help?" "Yeah, help me." And he says, "Untie me." And I lift the handkerchief from his hands.
Which again had not been tied.
And he starts rubbing his wrist, massaging his wrist like they've been. And then he says, now his hands are free. He says, I can't breathe. Take the Kleenex out of my nose. And I pulled the Kleenex out. Well, that was at 16. I said, that's the single funniest person I've ever met in my life.
And also how unfairly hilarious it is to this day.
Yeah.
You know, he had done this routine that he and Rob had worked up maybe, and it was an instant classic that would be funny forever.
Yes, and then he went on to write and direct some of the best movies ever.
Yes.
His very first movie, Real Life, was absolutely a winner.
And way ahead of its time.
Way ahead of its time.
Yeah, it was the very next one, Modern Romance, that I can quote every line from. And
then one he did with Meryl Streep.
Yes, of course.
Defending Your Life.
What is it?
Defending Your Life.
Defending Your Life. He invited Meryl Streep, maybe the best actress in the world ever.
Yes.
He invited her to be his co-star.
Yeah.
He has a right to have chutzpah. He has a right to have chutzpah.
Brilliant, yes. And just as your son's friend running around the house,
you know, I remember.
You don't expect that.
One story I remember when he was very young, he was 16 years old. He comes here, he's got no shoes.
Okay.
And I say, where's your shoes? He said, my mother, she said I had to do something around the house and I didn't do it. So you can't go out with Rob tonight and wherever he's going to go. So he says, she took my shoes away. So I ran out of the house without shoes. And I came here. I said, Albert, I'm a parent. Does your mother know where you are? He said, no. I said, well, it's not fair. I said, I called his mother and I said, if you're worried about Albert, he's at my house. And she says, he has no shoes. I know, he walked out without shoes. Anyway, we worked it out that either he went home and got his shoes, I don't know, but I'll never forget that.
Showing up with no shoes. His father was a radio comedian. Did you know him?
A radio comedian who had the sense of humor or the chutzpah to name, his name was Harry Einstein.
Harry Einstein.
He played on the Eddie Cantor show. I think it was the original Park Your Carcass.
Park Your Carcass.
Yeah, and then another guy, Bert Gordon, took over. And I used to listen to that program. His father was hysterical. He named his son, Harry Einstein named his son Albert.
Yes.
To give a kid that name, Albert, and he lived up to it.
Yeah.
He is to comedy what Einstein was to E equal MC squared.
I hadn't thought of it before, but I'm going to agree with you 100%. He's the ultimate genius. So we're here also to celebrate your book, which I understand you've written 14 of them now. You did,
I guess.
And then there's another 8 children's books. So really,
the children's book is coming out. It is out now. It's called "You Say God Bless You for Sneezing and Farting."
that's the title of the book.
Yes, the title of the book.
It's an instant winner.
And I said about 30% of the book is absolutely true. My little granddaughter, when she was 4 years old, she's now 16, we're walking to school with our friend Leo to kindergarten, past wind, and she says, don't you say God bless you? He says, no, it's only for sneezing. She says, no, God bless you for sneezing and farting. And we'll ask the teacher, and they did ask the teacher, raise your hands if you want. Anyway, so the first few the rest of the book is in what I would like it to have been. It all goes all the way to President Obama with the dog farts in the house. She becomes worldwide. Everybody knows. She gets the cover of Time magazine because we find out that you can get diverticulitis from suppressing gas. You're better off letting it out because you can hurt your innards.
Let that be a lesson to everyone listening.
So I've been saying this for years.
Just changed my life.
So the little girl gets her face on Time magazine, fart freely, By the way, it's, when I wrote that, I said, it's not the first fart book because I understand a lot of fart books have been written, but the very first one,
yes,
maybe one of the best, which I bought for $15, was Fart Proudly, written by Benjamin Franklin in 1726.
Fart Proudly.
Proudly. You can get it on the net and internet.
This is an actual book.
Actual book. I have it here.
All right. Well, I'm going to need to take that with me when I leave. Now, I do have a few questions that will bring up stories from the book, if that's all right.
Yes.
Because although
you mean from this book?
That's the very one. Too Busy to Die.
Yes, a title that Mel gave me.
Yeah.
I'd finished three bios. One is I Remember Me. The other one, I Just Remember. And another one called What I Forgot to Remember.
Right.
And I said to him, what do I do now? And he says, You're Too Busy to Die. And that's this book that we have in front of me.
You felt it was an inspiring title.
I think it's the best of my bunch, really.
Yeah.
I do, really. And I'll read you one thing at the end that I think why it is.
Okay, please.
Not now. I'll
No.
read it when the time comes.
Okay.
Near the end.
Yeah.
You got to keep them listening.
Yes.
That's right.
You got to promise
It's a
them
teaser.
something.
Charles
Exactly.
just gave us a teaser.
Here's a
And you know what to
teaser.
stick around
Stay
for.
tuned. The opening of the book.
I always look for, in one of my books, you always look for somebody to give you a dedication.
Right.
And one book I had a dedication, it said, after a full day working my paddle boat, taking people to their homes, I get no greater pleasure than going down to my stateroom, turning on my new 7-inch TV set and watching the Dick Van Dyke Show, Mark Twain. That was my first quote. And I couldn't get another quote as good as that.
No,
so
you couldn't.
I looked around Rochefoucauld and all those great guys. And so I have self-plagiarism is the sincerest form of egotism. Carl Reiner, 2015. I quote myself. I quote myself.
You quote yourself.
Yes.
You plagiarize yourself to make the point.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I got to tell you, the book is wonderful, and I'm enjoying it very much. I'm an embarrassingly slow reader. I'm loving every page so far.
I know.
I especially layout. I love the layout of each chapter, usually accompanied by photographs from a moment in time that inspire the story. A lot of books have photographs in them that pertain to a particular story, but you've used them all throughout as almost a heading of every chapter, and I enjoy that very much because the photos are so authentic themselves.
Well, I love that. As a matter of fact, by the way, I just happened to, one I'm most proud of in 2015, I wrote the first of my, I tweet every night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go to sleep unless I have an anti-Trump tweet. And this one
like
was,
a sedative.
Yeah, it says, oh yes, I said I said,
Reading from the book.
yes, 50 years later on June 1st, I wrote about something earlier. When Donald Trump announced that he was running for president, I tweeted the first of my many heartfelt anti-Trump tweets. And the first one was 2015. The garbage spewed by the badly bleached blonde buffoon belongs in the dumpster along with the Trumpster. And I photocopied
And
he's sitting in the dumpster with his red tie.
you did the actual layout, the artwork there?
Yeah, we had somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I had him here. And
Photoshopped
the last
him into
line,
a crown and cape.
since tweeting that Trump had become a 45th president, and last night I dreamed that he proved it was a rigged election and proclaimed himself King Donald I. So he was able to do that. So he's with a crown.
Yeah. We've wanted royalty in this country for a long time.
Yeah.
And instead we got a dictator, but yes.
But he's self-destructing right now. He's all of those things. He's got so many deals going with foreign countries, making money on it.
Yeah.
He's going to go.
Yeah. Well, you heard it first, folks. Those of you that were wondering if, in fact, he would survive in the White House. I love the first... my takeaway from the first chapter of the book, your lifelong ability to tie a proper bow tie and how it has served you.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Well, the funny thing, how things, look at the cover, which has me tying a bow tie. It happened because Mel and I were watching on the set The Scoundrel with Noel Coward, the single most talented human being that was ever in show business.
He wins.
Yeah. Well, he wrote plays. He wrote musicals. He wrote the lyrics. He wrote the libretto. He wrote the tunes.
Yeah.
And he wrote serious novels. He wrote
starred in a lot of his own productions.
Oh yeah. He directed, and he finally even went to Vegas and did a full act. Most talented human being. Well, we were watching The Scoundrel, and Mel was saying, "Look how he's tying his tie without even a regular tie, not a clip-on.
Didn't need a mirror."
Yeah, and I said, every actor can do that. And I was telling him the story. I said, when I was emceeing the
Directors
Guild Award, I said, I remember standing next to Arthur Hill, who was the president. I said, you know the difference between a director and an actor? I says, an actor wears a tie he ties, and I opened my tie. I said, what are you wearing? He said, a clip-on. How many directors wearing clip-ons? The whole audience raised their I said, that's the difference between we have to learn it, and I did when I was 17. I was where Bishop Misbehaves. I had to have a tuxedo. Anyway, all of a sudden I got a big applause. I don't know what they were applauding about. While I was talking, I tied my tie. Gift applause.
Yeah. So you, in front of them, had untied it to show them that it was a tie that had been tied and not a clip-on.
Right.
And then as you kept talking, says the story in the book, you decided to retie the tie, and then that's what dawned on you. That's what they're applauding.
I didn't decide to. I figured get back to being the MC. So,
yeah, you don't want to be the
telling
schlub.
this story about actors.
Right. Only James Bond would host the DGA Awards with an untied bow tie. And I also love that because of a movie, you were forced to learn how to tie a bow tie.
Because of a play, a Broadway.
Oh, it was a play.
A play, yeah.
Okay, great.
Not a movie.
No,
it was The Bishop Misbehaves.
Oh, at 17, long before you were in any motion picture.
A movie, yes.
In fact, was that a Broadway production?
The Bishop Misbehaved was off Broadway.
So Pittsburgh.
It actually was in a beautiful theater on 64th Street. It was called the Daily Theater, I think. It was a beautiful theater, but the second and third balcony were not allowed because they would fall down. There was a guy named Paul Gilmore who had a free theater. In other words, the free theater meant you came in, you only have to pay tax because it was 22 cents, 33 cents. It was free theater for the actors, too. I worked 6 days a week for no dollars a week.
No dollars a week?
No dollars. And one
That's
day,
not a good deal.
And I was also a machinist helper, and I was getting $8 for that. I had to have my lunch, and when I stayed down at night to play the show, I'd have dinners, 25 cents in the Stewart's cafeteria. I couldn't afford it, and I called Mr. Gilmore, his name was, and I said, Mr. Gilmore, I can't afford to stay anymore. I think I have to get paid. And he called me into his dressing room and shut the door. He says, if you tell anybody this, I will rescind it, but I'm going to pay you $1. I said, $1 a show? $1 a week.
How?
And for the next, I don't know how many, a long time, I got $1 a week.
Yeah. Well, by the way, the theater isn't paying much more now.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah.
Do you still go to see Broadway plays when you're in New York?
I don't go to New York anymore because my bed is here.
Sure.
I don't have a bed in New York.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you remember the last Broadway show that you saw?
Gee, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Isn't that awful?
It's not awful.
I havened been there for 5 or 6 years.
Right.
Gee, I don't remember it. But I watched the Tonys and watched the shows. I tweeted something yesterday that I think is absolutely true. I said, when I was a kid, the musical especially, when I was a kid, Irving Berlin and Cole Porter wrote songs.
Yeah.
And today the songwriters are writing recitatives. I said, no, you can't sing them. They're raps. They're raps. They're not songs. They're raps.
Uh-huh.
And one after another, even Hamilton, which is a great work. That guy's a genius who wrote that. But it's all rap. It's not singing.
Yeah. The little bit of singing, we did see the show, the little bit of singing that takes place within Hamilton, actual singing, was my favorite part of the show.
I know. It's
I think Hamilton will be
whatever
at the
happened.
Pantages.
I'll be seeing
Yeah.
you and all the old. I mean, that's-
Hamilton is coming to Los Angeles at the Pantages Theater.
which is?
Hamilton.
Oh, I will see. I will absolutely force my way out of the house.
Yeah. What? Not a bad idea. All right, so a couple of things here come to mind. Emma Jean Whittington.
Emma Jean Whittington. Somebody just. Two things.
Yes.
Emma Jean Whittington was a girlfriend I had when I was in the Summer Theater. I had done the Bishop Misbehaves. Not the Bishop Misbehaves.
It was a title very similar to that, though.
No. It was, he played God. I'll remember. Basil Rathbone did it. It was about the end of the world or something. That's what's happening.
It's in the book.
Yeah, it's in the book.
The good news is
I
it's
can
in the
look it up
book.
and
Sure.
find it, but I'm not going to.
Here, hand me the damn thing.
No, I'm going to find it. I'm gonna
He's very
find
determined.
It's the name of the title is Emma Jean, the chapter is Emma Jean Whittington.
The name of the chapter is Emma Jean Whittington. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll look it up, and then that'll tell you the name of the play.
Yes. So meanwhile, I'll sing to you. I can't sing Emma Jean. Oh, wait a second. Oh,
I will tell folks.
Here's the Gilmore. Here it is.
Yeah.
Page 8. My God, it's right.
It really is a lovely.
Right at the beginning. Page 8.
Let me just explain the book a little bit to the folks at home who are only listening.
Yes, please.
It's a beautiful book. All of the pages are glossy, and many of them contain beautiful color photographs.
Yeah.
And a lot of black and white photographs, and many of these photos are from Carl's life and times. And if you are a fan in any capacity, this is absolutely something that you should read and get for your friends, because it is a tremendous book.
Well done. And bought us just enough time. So it's on page 27, Carl, in the good book, we'll call it now.
See,
The Devil Passes.
The Devil Passes, in which I played the devil, and it was Basil Rathbone played, and I was about 17 or 18. And a girl comes backstage. This was at a Summer Theater. Rochester Summer Theater, and she said, "I just love you." And I said, "Oh, thank you." She was an apprentice there.
Okay.
And she hung around and became my girlfriend, my first real girlfriend. She taught me a lot I didn't know
About
everything.
Okay.
And then right after that we corresponded. She never heard opera. I sent her Red Seal operas, discs, Pagliacci with Caruso. She never heard of opera.
Where was she from?
Arkansas.
Sure.
However, she came from a distinguished family of rich people. And one of them, she thinks she was related to the famous. There's a Whittington cat in England that's a famous story about it. Dick Whittington's cat.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, now I'm doing a Shakespearean tour, and it's a one-night stand. I'm going from town to town overnight. We're traveling, and then next day we do a show. And she calls and says she'd like to come visit me. Emma Jean Whittington was so rich. This is way back. She owns a plane, a one-seater plane. I mean, a one-motored plane.
Her family or her herself?
She owned her own plane.
And piloted it.
And she said, "I'd like to come down and visit you." I said, Imagine, we don't stay any place. If you come down, we're off.
Yeah.
We don't. Anyway, she didn't come, and that was the end of. And just lately, I wanted a picture. I had a picture of her. Somebody looked it up. There's a famous, and they found the picture of Emma Jean. But there were two things that happened lately. You try to string together things to finish your life neatly.
Sure.
There was I think I wrote about when I was very young, 17, and going to a free acting class, at which the government paid for, by the way. WPA, which to this day, I'm still angry at. And that Trump and those people say, and even Reagan, everybody, the government shouldn't do. That's what the government should be doing in times of stress.
Sure.
Especially when the Depression happened, free acting classes, free classes for construction people. The greatest murals in all of the post offices were done because the WPA, the government, paid for it.
By those students.
And they still exist. They're beautiful. Anyway, so what was I saying? Oh, yes. So Emma Jean Whittington disappeared, and in the Summer Theater, I got a new girlfriend. Oh, no. Before Summer Theater, when I was going to the free acting class,
right,
I met a girl named Barbara Comack, and that was my first real girlfriend. I really, really cared about her. We petted, we kissed, we didn't do anything very serious, and I was so excited about her, and she loved me, and I loved her. I went to her house all the time. My mother seemed to accept me.
Right.
And one day I said, I'm going to made a Sunday date to go to Crotona, to what do you call it? The park, Jesus, I can't.
Central Park? No,
the park in the Bronx, the Bronx Park. Animals. It was
The Bronx Zoo.
Huh?
The Bronx Zoo?
The Bronx Zoo.
Yeah.
I knew every animal in the zoo. My mother and father took me there every summer. That's where no camps. We spent every day, all day long. I took lunch, and I knew
meeting and memorizing the animals.
Knew every animal by name. My brother used to feed animals.
Did you have a favorite?
Well, Charlie loved the alpaca because he used to feed him, and the alpaca once spit in his face. I saw it.
You say the alpaca spit in his face?
Yeah, but one of the most memorable things, we were on the other side of the park, and we heard a thud like we'd never heard before. We all came to the sound. There was a two cage thing. It was two big cages with big rocks on it and mountainous rocks. The weedads, they were goats, mountain goats, and they ran between these two cages with the big horns, beautiful. And we happened to be there when the king of the weedads was being challenged to be leader of the pack.
And that
because
meant
wherever the leader went, the pack went with him, in either cage. And they went to two ends of the arena, put their heads down and bumped heads.
And you got to see a showing of that.
They did it for hours.
Oh my!
Until one of them locked the other one, turned him over and flipped him. The younger one won. But I'll never.
Isn't
forget
that always the way?
Not always.
Yeah.
Not always, indeed. I want to hear about meeting your lifelong pal and coworker, Howard Morris, fellow NYA employee.
The NYA radio workshop was another WPA project, and that we got paid for. We got paid $22 a month, $22.50 a month for broadcasting Norman Colvin stories, doing introductions to symphonies and operas that
right.
were recorded by NYA radio workshop performers.
Sure.
And that's where I met Howie. And I remember the war broke out, and Howie was 112 pounds, and he was going for his physical to be inducted. I said, Howie, they're never going to take you. You had to be 117 or something like that, 14, 15.
More than him.
And he went there, and he came back as they took me. I said, why? He said, well, I woke up that morning. I was so thirsty. He drank enough water to get right over the skin.
He drank 5 pounds of water.
Yeah, but what happened? This is like a bad movie. I mean, like a bad written movie. So, synchronous things happen that I'm on my way. I'm now a member of the Signal Corps. I'm a teletype operator. I'm in Hawaii, going someplace, destination unknown. We're leaving the next day. In Farrington Hall in the University of Hawaii, there's a GI Hamlet. Maurice Evans doing Hamlet. So my friend Saul Pomerantz and I went down to see it. And we had one day, and we see Howie Morris playing Laertes. I went backstage. Howie, I said, he didn't even bother to take a drive. He says, "Do you have an act?" He seems to be he found out he was the sergeant in charge of the entertainment section.
He wanted to book you.
He wanted to put me into one of the entertainment units that were entertaining the troops. And I said, "I have an act." I said, "But,"
you're shipping out the next day.
I'm shipping out someplace, and I don't know where I'm going, but I'm leaving tomorrow. He says, why don't you audition for Maurice Evans and Captain Alan Ludden?" And Saul said, "Go find out if you're any good. These are professionals." So I went down, I auditioned, and they both loved me, and they said, "We'd love to have you." And I said, "I'm sorry, I'm shipping out tomorrow." And Maurice Evans called General Richardson of the Central Pacific Base Command and traded me out. The next day I hear on the loudspeaker Carl Reiner report that and I'm
Carl Reiner, don't get on the truck.
Yeah, right. And next day I'm at the University of Hawaii with the
You joined the Performing Armed Forces.
And I did a bunch of shows, and finally I wrote a show called Shape Ahoy with my friend Joe Coogan. I wrote sketches, and I did a
Shape Ahoy. Yeah, you write about that in the book.
Yeah. But what's really amazing about this, we toured the Pacific, Saipan, Eniwetok, Johnson Island, Palau, Mogmog, all of the islands, for 1 year. We're touring and entertaining these troops. VJ Day, we're in the air. We hear it's VJ Day, and we're going to Iwo Jima, which is where my buddies left. By the way, I've learned when my friend left to go to where parts unknown, I got a little V-mail back. 4 days later, I knew they landed in Iwo Jima. What happened is they were our group used to be the first ones in to set up the message center, so we're the first wave.
Right.
And they dug foxholes, and two things happened. In this little V-mail I got, it said there are atheists in foxholes. We were both atheists at the time. What had happened, Saul had wrote this message,
right?
And a Marine was hurt, and they was putting him on a stretcher to put him to get him to a ship. And as he passed by, he reached out of the thing. He said, "Take this with you and mail it." And that's how I found it.
He set the letter on top of the guy on the stretcher.
Now that's Iwo Jima. 1 year after this is all done, the day of VJ Day, I'm on Iwo Jima, and there are 17 or 18 installations on Iwo we could play. The first one we were booked was the 3117th Battalion. My buddies, there I am, the star of a show, playing for my buddies I hadn't seen in a year. All of them were okay, nobody died.
These are the ones you were supposed to ship out with?
Yes, and the one guy they traded me for was a photographer. He was fine. He went home.
Everyone did well.
Nobody died, so I didn't feel guilty.
Yeah.
But that's a bad movie. Who would say, it's like
it's never going to happen.
A Dan Daly movie.
Not a lot of war movies with happy endings.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
As much as I'm enjoying the lovely breeze, Sam, I'm wondering if you might that white sliding door.
Yes, I was not enjoying the breeze.
You were not?
No.
Oh, okay. And Jamie, you get your chill just by getting out of bed. There's one side. Sam Levine doing a hell of a job so far. Wait, there's a hiccup. No, he's got it. Wait, there's a struggle.
Yeah.
And I believe he's successful in sealing off the sounds
not to
and
brag,
the wind.
I think I did a little better job with the sliding glass door.
You know, you both did the best you could.
It's true.
Jews don't do well with manual labor.
Now, there's a very famous salute called the Moldavian salute that had nothing to do with World War II.
No, it was. I was about to go into service, and I wanted very much to get into special services so I can perform.
Right.
And I figured if I hadn't, I wasn't a member of Equity or any guilds, so I looked for. I got the Variety, whatever they had, and I looked to see, and there was a thing called a touring company of the Merry Widow, and I auditioned. I became a second tenor. sang with the chorus.
Right.
Ladies' choice maketh manly heart rejoice. Anyway.
That's fantastic.
And so we had a little bit, myself and a very, very dear friend. We played two soldiers.
Right.
We had nothing to do.
Charles Dubin.
Charles Dubin. He became a very fine director, and he directed a lot of movies after that.
And he went through the blacklist as well, I think?
Went through the blacklist and got hurt badly.
Right.
But he came out of it, and he was okay. And we decided we got to make a Moldavian salute. So we made a salute that actually got a laugh. We saluted first here, then here, then here, and then here. And we did about 4 different things with the salute. And the audience laughed.
In the book, it says
because it started like a real salute.
A real salute. It ends up you're somewhere near your belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you hadn't seen each other in many years in the book I loved, and you saw each other on the street, and without either one of you saying a word, you gave each other the Moldavian salute.
Right.
Yeah. And I love that you did this salute to each other of just a few inches apart your faces. That made me laugh. Camp Crowder, Missouri. We're doing the whole war section here. Camping It Up at Camp Crowder, Missouri is the name of another chapter where you meet, who ends up being another wonderful friend and co-worker, Corporal Neistat.
Oh, Corporal Neistat.
Became...
Yeah. I saw he was working in a rec hall, and I happened to be watching him, and I introduced myself. I said, "Anunnaki, let me do it." And then he was so very funny, but he was an ad-lib funny guy. He couldn't remember his own words. He was always ad-libbing something.
Sure.
And one day I said, "Can we do something together?" And we together we taught the audience how to roll a full field pack. And remember,
comedically,
we're on the stage and we made believe we had a piece of canvas there. First thing you do is you take a carrier pigeon, because you can't write home in the thing. There's no post office boxes.
That's right. Make sure.
So you write little notes, you put it on the carrier pigeon, send it home. And then there's the second thing and there was a little Coca-Cola bottle top.
Uh-huh.
What is that for? Latrine for carrier pigeons. Anyway.
Still killing this bit.
That was Louis Neistat.
Yes, Louis Neistat.
And then years later, I got in a Broadway show called Inside USA with Jack Haley and B. Lilly. And I shared the dressing room with Louis Neistat. And one of the producers came back and he said, Louis Neistat, that's a funny name to pronounce. And
it's too much of a name.
You're better off cutting it. And he called him. He said, why don't you make it Louis Nye?
Sure.
And that's how Louis Nye got his name. It was given to him by Howard Schwartz of Schwartz and Dietz.
Is that right?
Yeah, he said fine.
Yeah.
He didn't.
He always made me laugh. I remember as a kid seeing him, whatever the variety show was. Of course, he was the original Man on the Street for Steve.
With Steve Allen.
Steve Allen's Tonight Show, the original Tonight Show.
What do you say? Hi ho, everybody. Yeah.
Hi ho. Jamie says that to this day.
Yeah.
Having not known it had come from Louis Nye. We mentioned you remembered me doing impersonations. You had something in the act, Monty the Talking Dog.
Oh, I had done impersonations for a long time, and good ones. I did a very good James Stewart, and of course Ronald Coleman, Hakeem Tamara for Was Easy, Charles Boyer. I had a few, and I was getting bored with myself.
Sure.
So I got the idea. I came out on stage, and I remember the first time I did it, it was at Hollywood. I don't know where, not Hollywood Bowl, but a big bowl someplace in Hawaii, hundreds and thousands. And I came out dragging a leash and a blanket, a dog blanket. And I said, I'm terribly sorry, folks, at this point, we had a wonderful act for you, but Monty the Talking Dog passed away last night. And I can't tell you, what you're missing. I said, I used to be an impersonator. I said, but after hearing Monty, I said, and then I said, he did, you can't believe, I said, and then I did all the, I said, I would do my roomies do. I said, they applauded. I said, hold it. If you heard Monty do it, you wouldn't, and they loved the idea. I still did my impression, but a little curve on it.
But you suggested this was Monty the dog, talking dogs impersonation.
And I said he did one thing I could never even attempt to try, and I don't know how he did it, but he did it. He impersonated, it took a lot of work and makeup and everything. What's his name? Roy Rogers Trigger.
Oh, the horse.
Yeah, he did Trigger. You would swear it was the horse.
That's fantastic. Yeah, count to 3 with the hoof. Yeah. I like that a lot. Now, you were on tour doing the play Call Me Mister.
Yes.
In Boston. Not only were you a smash, the show yourself, getting great reviews, extended from, I think, 6 weeks to 6 months.
And that was in Chicago. Yeah, we were
when you were in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
But it was in Boston you discovered that you had successfully conceived your what would be your firstborn, a boy named Meathead. No, that's not right.
Yeah. No, that was when we were in Boston yet.
Yes.
Yeah, my wife went home to deliver Robbie, and when he was 6 weeks old, she came to Chicago, and we thought we'd be there a few months, and a few weeks, and we were there 6 months. So he was able to become so when we got on a train to go for the rest of the place, he was at least handleable.
Right. Yeah, the extension for the play helped out nice.
Yes, it's right.
Yeah.
And Robbie got his first taste of show business.
Yeah. This I loved. 3 Macho Cowards is the name of the chapter. It was the summer of '65 at the San Francisco airport.
Oh, yeah. That was, we're doing Russians Are Coming.
Yes.
And we used to fly home for the weekend. We were doing it at a place called Noyo County, and they had a little airport there in Northern California, and myself and Norman Jewison and even Marie Saint would all fly home for
Alan Arkin.
Was he in that?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. He was in it. I don't know if he came.
If he came in the plane.
Yeah.
The picture just had the ones you had mentioned. You're right.
Yeah, I think there were 3 of us only.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Alan, he got an Academy Award. He didn't need to go home.
Maybe that's why he got the Academy Award, Carl. Because he didn't go home.
So we had this one, and one day we were flying, and the ceiling is so low, the pilot said, "This is pretty dangerous." He said, we have to, and he realized he's flying at 600 feet, and there are water towers higher than that, and he said, I think we should turn around. And we said, no, we got to go on. And it was even Marie Saint says, no, it's not worth getting. Oh, well, if he wants it, we all want it there. But we let her be the arbiter.
Yeah.
And so then he made a very quick turn. And even I was sitting on the 2 little seats in the back. There was the pilot seat, 2 little seats, and a little tiny jump seat behind me. And Norman, being the smallest, took the jump seat. It was a little, came out of the
little
wall
folding,
and pushed it down.
Yeah.
And at one point, when he made that sharp turn, we heard a whoosh. What happened is a little door flapped open, a little baggage door. It was only this big, and I reached back, and I don't feel Norman. I said,
"Oh no,
I think we lost Norman." Thought he was whooshed out. What he had done, he was hanging outside the plane. He was trying to grab the the handle from the door, and he pulled it back in. He pulled it.
Wow. Yes, wow. That's a fantastic story.
But we were cowards. We wanted to. We wanted to put down, but we wouldn't say it until she said it.
Now, I mentioned Alan Arkin as part of the wonderful The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming. You mentioned he won the Academy Award. During the production of that, however, there was one particular day that was rained out. and a very serious version of Ring Around the Rosie took place in your hotel room.
Yes.
With Alan Arkin, Jonathan Winters, Eva Marie Saint.
Yes, and
Eva Saint Marie.
two other guys too. Brian Keith.
Brian Keith.
Yeah, all
Family
very
Affair,
serious actors.
Father.
And they had nothing to do. And I had a sort of a big room, so I invited everybody to come and have a little lunch.
You had a bigger room. You were a big shot.
Well, I was nominal star of the picture.
Yes.
Got a little more money. Anyway, so everybody came for lunch, and I said, and we didn't know what to do. It was raining, like nobody could get out. I said, you know something, we could have some fun. I said, if we played, Ring Around the Rosie, for instance. But I said, we won't enjoy it unless we're dead serious. I said, because it was seriously, in London, Ring Around the Rosie was the death of people when they all fall down.
The plague.
Because they had this.
The plague?
It was the Black Plague.
The plague.
Yes.
The Black Plague.
Wow.
And I said, so it's a very serious thing. I said, so when we sing in deference to the English who died of plague, I said, we should do it very seriously. And if you can't do it seriously, please don't do it. And we did Ring Around the Road. Ring Around the Road. All fall down. And we fell down. Nobody smiled. And we'll do it again. And we did it like 4 or 5.
And there was a wonderful moment in it. You quoted Alan Arkin as saying, well, let me ask you a question. Are we really going to fall down? We're going to fall all the way down?
That's very good.
Is that going to be helpful? Should we just lean over?
That was Alan.
Yeah.
Oh, was he funny?
Oh, man.
I just spoke to him yesterday.
Is that right?
Yes, because I'm writing another book upstairs.
Of course.
And I remembered his the movie he made where he was a deaf mute. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter.
Yes.
And I remember seeing that, and I said, what a performance that was.
It's a clinic. He's putting on an acting clinic in that movie.
Yeah. And I just added it to the book, so I called him and told him I was there, and we had a nice conversation. And I also reminded him that my daughter, who sings like her mother, is going to sing his song. And
yeah, you put a song that he wrote that your wife sang, and now you're saying your daughter's going to sing it.
Yeah, she did sing it once already. She loves it.
She did. The lyrics,
yes.
Sammy, see if you can find the lyrics of the song that Alan Arkin wrote. Sam will find it, and then I'll have you read them, because they really are kind of remarkable.
Yes, it's...
Do you remember the name of the song?
I Like You.
I Like You is the name of the song.
Yeah.
Sammy...
Alan was a songwriter, singer. He sang with a group for a long time.
Yeah.
From when he started.
He appeared on this show.
He did.
You're doing now, and we talked about that very thing.
That's you.
Yeah.
I like you, 'cause you don't make me nervous. I never met anybody like you before. Maybe once or twice, but not very recently. You'll do. You never ask me for money all the time.
These are lyrics.
And I'm missing a phrase there. And one thing I forgot, you're a very good cook, and I certainly love to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jamie, you would love these lyrics.
There's a couple lines missing in there.
Yeah. You read them as just lyrics on the page.
Yeah,
You sang it lovely, but when you read them just as lyrics on the page,
you didn't find
it made me think, how did someone sit down to write these ridiculous... It's like almost a note to self.
I know. Well, he's... No, I can't find it.
And I went to Twitter. We both enjoy the Twitter, and I asked them. I let Twitter know that I was we'd be chatting today.
Yes.
And I asked people to pose questions.
Yes, yeah.
And one of them was anything you can share about your time with Alan Arkin while working on The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming, other than the Ring Around the Rosie.
Well, let me see.
Well, if you spoke to him yesterday, it is suggesting you've maintained a friendship all these many years.
Oh, yes. He's a happily married man. He's got 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the fact that the only thing that really matters is sending non-toxic people into the world. and the world would be a better place if we have all good people.
Yeah.
And I think Trump's mother and father really don't know what they did.
No, I couldn't imagine they have any idea.
I wonder what they were like.
Well, I'm going to say less caring.
Yeah, somebody screwed him. You know, every time there's some really bad person, you point and say, who fathered and mothered them?
Yes. Yeah, I find myself doing that a lot when a younger person is acting up.
Yeah.
My fault is with the parents. Yeah.
Point right to them and say,
What's the matter with you?
When a parent is complaining about a kid, I always point to them. Said, that's your kid.
Yeah. Sammy, look up the three macho cowards. That will lead to
Thank you, sir.
We just did it.
The Alan Arkin thing.
You already sang it.
Yeah. But the lyrics really are something to read.
What is it? Where is it? What page is it?
Here, I'm gonna give you a couple of questions here from Twitter.
Okay.
Mr. Carl Reiner.
Mr.
If that's your real name.
It is.
One of the few famous Jews in the show business who did not change their name.
Is it what?
Who did not change their name. You are.
Did not change.
One of the
no, I didn't have
few
to.
famous.
That's a good name.
It's a great name.
Where there was Fritz Reiner was a big conductor. Louise Reiner, who spelled it R-A-I, and it was never changed her name.
Okay, are you ready for your first question from
Yes.
Twitter? All right, here we go. I wonder if I should give the person credit who asked the question. Sure, why not?
I think it's customary.
It is customary. Good point. Lee Kellyon Drims. Her name is Lee Kelly. In the decade of doing the 2,000-year-old man, has Mel Brooks ever painted himself into a corner he couldn't get out of?
Never painted himself in the corner. First of all, I put him in the corner. He got out of every corner I've ever put him in.
It seemed like that was part of the joy for you.
The tighter the corner, the funnier he was.
Yes.
Yeah, no, he was amazing. And we did it for 10 years. The 2,000-year-old man, the genesis was me walking into the office, my first day on the show of shows, and Mel was not working as a writer. He was working for Sid Caesar for jokes. Sid Caesar paid him $20 a joke or something.
Right.
And I walked in, didn't know who he was, and there's a guy standing up doing a Jewish pirate. and
That's already funny to me.
And I'll never forget the words. I've said it many times. He's, you know something? I can't afford anymore to be a pirate. You know what they're charging for sailcloth? $3.90 a yard. I can't afford to pillage and rape anymore. That was his first lines.
Oh, my.
And that week I went home and, you know, We the People Speak, one of those shows was on, and I got the idea. I came to the office without ever saying hello to him. Here's a man who was actually at the scene of the crucifixion 2,000 years ago. Isn't that true, sir? And he said, oh, boy. I says, you were there? Yes. He says, you knew Jesus? He says, thin lad, right? He says, he walked around with 12 other guys all the time. He says, they used to come into the store. I had a little candy store. He says, they never bought anything. They asked me for water. I gave them water. Nice boys. That was it. The first month. Then for the next 10 years,
Yeah.
anytime there was a lull in the office or at a party, we started doing parties that were arranged. So Mel and I can get dinner parties. Alan J. Lerner in New York, the last one that got, this is interesting, he had one of those A1 dinner parties, you know, the A-list. And we didn't ever want to do it for anybody but Jews and non-anti-Semitic Christians, because it was 4 years after the war. The Jewish accent was persona non grata. Myron Cohen brought it back on the Sullivan Show. And so at this party, we were killing them, and three guys came up to us, and this is true. First one was George Burns saying, is there a record on this? And we said, no. He says, put it on record or I'll steal it. and Edward G. Robinson was there, and he said, make a play out of this. Make a play out of this. I'd like to play it on Broadway. I'd like to play The 1,000-Year-Old Man on Broadway. I said, it's 2,000. He says, play any age. He actually said that.
That's fantastic.
And it was Steve Allen, blessed Steve Allen, who loved nothing more than to present comedians to the world.
Yeah.
And he says, fellas, I have a studio called World Pacific Jazz. Please take it over. He says, do anything you want there. Whale. And he says, I don't want to be part of it. We ordered, we invited 300 or 400 people to come. We wailed for 2 hours, cut it down to 47 minutes. Still wasn't sure. And put it on an album. The day the album came out, true story, I was working at Universal. I had a cottage there next to Cary Grant's.
Sure.
And Cary Grant came by one and we said hello. And I gave him an album. I said, you might like this. Came back the next day. He says, can only have 12. I said, what? Wait. He said, I'm going to London. I said, you going to take this? They speak English there, he said. And he came back, and we were worried about whether it'll get over with.
How it would play.
With non-Jewish people. And so he came back and said, she loved it. I said, who? The Queen Mother. Played at the Buckingham Palace. And I said to Mel, I said, the biggest chicks in the world loved it.
The biggest shiksa in the world. I'm not sure the Queen Mum's ever been described that way, Carl.
No. Anyway, so we were home free after that.
Oh, my, were you? I played it for the Queen of England.
Yeah, we made 4 of them finally, 4.
Yeah, of course. And I see to the right of you.
Yes.
2 TV trays.
Yes.
And I'm going to assume those are the very ones used on a very regular basis for you and your dear friend Mel Brooks.
Yeah, he sits over here. We watch television, then he moves there, and I sit here and watch television. By the way, that set, isn't that too big a set for the room?
I don't think it's too big for the room because...
it's a big room.
You want it to feel like a theater.
Well, the funny thing is it was brought in when I wasn't here. And I said, my God, what do you do? And he says, watch it. And as soon as I saw a ball game, I said, oh, my God, yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. My wife, who was sick at the time, never got to see this. She would have said, get it out of here.
Yeah.
She was sick upstairs for a year, never came down. Was sick.
Well, listen, I honestly, truly can't thank you enough for allowing us into your home. We've been talking already for an hour, and I feel like it's too much already. But I do want to ask, I want to tell you, we have a segment on the show called Famous Questions.
Yes.
Where I get someone famous to write a question for you, the guest. In this case, I'm going to make sure, there was one other person I reached out to. I just want to make sure that didn't, yep, good. And so here's the question from a very famous person. Is there a specific childhood memory that reoccurs either in a waking or sleeping state? And if so, why do you think it reoccurs? That question is from your son, Rob Reiner.
Oh, my God.
I will repeat it. Is there a specific childhood memory that reoccurs either in waking or sleeping state?
And you know what worries me? Anytime... I thought about the other day, my wife and I used to go on vacations later on, when the kids were able to be looked after by sitters.
Sure.
And I always wondered how they felt about us leaving. Were they mad at us?
Wow.
They never said anything. And I was thinking, did we... we took an awful lot of vacations when we got wealthy enough to do so.
And you would go away for a bit of time.
Yes, and then when they got older, we bought a house in the south of France, which you were too old to care about,
Right.
And he came over. I don't think Rob ever came to that. I can't remember. Gee, no. So look at that. Not remembering is another thing.
Yes, of course.
But I do remember Rob being the smartest kid I ever met. He had a photographic memory. he started watching The 2,000 Year Man when he was about 5 or 6 years old, sat on the steps and laughed.
Yeah.
And he once gave us a joke when he was 16.
He pitched a joke?
He pitched a joke. He said, the guy who invented laughter, applause.
Uh-huh.
And he was standing right there. And we said, well, how did he invent that? He said, years ago, when people liked something, he said, oh, it's that good. Oh, it's that good. And if they were really good, they'd hit themselves in the face. Finally, they took their face out of it. Yeah, and that's how applause started. We used it.
That is spectacular.
Yeah, we used it.
I want to ask, receiving the Mark Twain Prize, one of the comments you write about in the book about all of the many experiences that came with that honor, you quote, "Wow, I thought, Charlie and I in the Oval Office chatting with the President of the United States."
Yeah.
So your older brother, Charlie.
Yeah, who was in 11 major battles in the war.
Big World War II hero.
World War II.
For sure.
He's enshrined in Arlington. And we gave the 12-gun salute. And he was a kid who worried about somebody spitting on him. He had germs. And he ended up in Normandy. He ended up at the invasion of North Africa. And he was in a band. He played the saxophone, which I was supposed to play, but I had no talent. My father taught him the saxophone. And the fact that he's alive today, lived to be 81 years old,
right,
was a miracle. It was a miracle.
How he survived all those missions.
Yeah, and the day he was in the band, as I said, and after the winning of that, they won that area. Eisenhower came and they had a big ceremony, and he went back to the band. He was an anti-tank when he wasn't in the band, and there were the anti-tank guys were 3 guys with a little gun, a cannon, shooting at a tank. They were blown up, and another guy would come in. So there were like 65 guys. There were 20 left.
Wow.
Charlie was one of them. And he was in the band. So the band played for Eisenhower. And Eisenhower said, "What kind of a band is that?" And they explained.
A band made up of people who risked their lives for the country.
They had to come out. No longer that. They're going to be litter bearers. He was carrying people dying off the field, which is, you're standing up, you're almost as vulnerable as...
Of course.
Anyway, so that was Charlie.
But you told a great story of in the Oval Office when at the time President Clinton took very care and interest.
That was interesting because Clinton's line, "I feel your pain," I realized it was for real. When he heard that Charlie was, they had a D-Day thing, and everybody went back for the memorial.
It's the 50th anniversary at Normandy.
Anniversary. And he asked Charlie. Charlie naturally couldn't go. He was in a wheelchair, and when he came to visit them with them, we didn't think he could get out of the house. He had a catheter. Right. He lived not very much longer after that. Right. Anyway,
he made it to the White House and he sat there.
He was and I remember Clinton sitting on the edge of a cloak chair so he can be at Charlie's level, and he asked him about and he said, and Clinton said, "I went with 2 friends of mine who said to me, 'See that tree over there?' He says, 'That's where I saw my brother blown up.'" And he said, and that little rock over there, he says, "That's where I saw my other brother blown up."
Oh, my.
And he said the guy started to cry.
Sure.
When he talked about it. And Clinton is crying.
Relaying the story to Charlie.
He's telling Charlie the story. And he's crying. And I said, it's true. Yeah. And we had a lovely time because after we stayed I think he invited us to stay at the Lincoln bedroom. We slept over. But my wife and I sat with Clinton and there was nothing in the kitchen. And he found a big cake, birthday. We're eating birthday cake 12 at night. But he's a good chatter. He really was.
Yes. But I also, in the book, it was wonderful that you pointed out that Clinton knew things about Charlie's war record.
Oh yeah,
and related it to him within the conversation.
That was oh yeah, when he
meeting him.
When Charlie talked about the invasion from Britain, the Normandy invasion, you know, and Charlie, their company was so decimated that they didn't go D+1, they went D+2 or 3.
Right.
And so
they Utah Beach, I think
they went to St. Malo rather than the original place, and Clinton knew all about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Charlie said that at one point they were walking. There's a hedge between them and the Germans walking in different directions.
Oh my!
And each knew the other was there, and they didn't do anything about it.
On the other side of this big hedge,
they would have to kill each other. They decided just pass each other by.
Wow. Ew. Oh, Carl,
wait, I have to ask.
Sammy, chime in, please.
I have to ask. A day or two before I found out we were going to come here and have the honor of chatting with you, I came across your doc on HBO, If You're Not in the Obits, Have Breakfast.
Yeah, right.
And I thought it was an absolutely wonderful, fascinating look at nonagenarians who are still as active as 20-something counterparts.
I got to give the credit to where it is due. My nephew-in-law, George Shapiro, my manager, came up the idea for Vital at 90. Went all over the country finding people who were still working. I gave him a couple of friends of mine who I knew about. But he found this 100-year-old woman who still runs marathons.
Uh-huh.
And all of that is Georgie's idea of. And the only reason it's called if you're not in the obituary, eat breakfast.
You're not in the obituary, eat breakfast.
Because I said that once. And,
right.
And whoever picked the thing together said, that's a good title. So they threw that in as the title. But it was George, Vital at 90, which is why the thing exists.
I got you. Well, you are the epitome of that.
Yeah, but he went out and got, Tony Bennett to sing at the beginning, all of that
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a wonderful documentary. Yeah. People should check it out.
By the way, it plays almost every day because it's HBO.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can pull it up.
Yeah.
I can't leave also without asking just any stories at all you want to share about directing Steve Martin, who I've worked with a couple of times as an actor. One of the more generous and brilliant performers, of course. But
I use the word genius correctly, because not only is he a fine actor, he knows more about everything. His book, his biography, Born Standing Up, may be the best biography ever written.
It's spectacular.
Tear your heart out and it also make you laugh. But he knows more about art, about the collection of art and the art antiquities. He's really brilliant. And it's an interesting thing. He once called me and he said, single most talented man in show business is Dick Van Dyke. And I told Dick that. Well, Dick can do anything.
Okay.
He's 90-something. He still dances like a fool.
Yeah, we had him on the show, too, and it was a pretty spectacular interview.
There's one thing in this thing.
Please.
When you do something that's never been done before,
okay,
this is my favorite thing. Two things. One is the what I know about God.
Yes.
But this is the other one. I wrote a and when I said I wrote a play called Something Different, and I wanted to do something different.
Yes.
So I came up with the idea of writing inarguably the longest title for the shortest, most satisfying work of romantic fiction, which would garner rave reviews from renowned critics who are almost as smart as Joyce Carol Oates, Ezra Pound, John Gardner, Harold Bloom, and Robert Penrose, and would be thrilled to read a work which should bring tears to their eyes for a venture which has sported the largest font-size lettering ever used in a literary endeavor. And that's what I love. I use the largest font size ever used. And you see, it's
in a book.
Oh yeah,
it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, 10 lines on a page.
I use that very font on my pages for the interviews. And what is the title of the book?
The title of the title of the book.
Sorry, not the book.
That was the title.
Yeah, that turns out that
I just read.
All of that was the title. Yeah.
But what it is a love story, and when I say it's a love, you read it, and it's a very touching love story. It's about the Maggios. It's about an Italian boy and a Jewish girl, one rich, one poor. He falls in love with her, never could talk to her. He sat behind her in class, followed her for blocks, just walking behind her, and took for years until he finally wanted to tell her something. He told his friend what he felt about her, and he says, I can't tell her. He says, why don't you tell her how I feel about her? His friend tells how he feels about her, and she thinks it's from his friend, so she kisses his friend, marries his friend, turns out to be a schmuck. She finally divorces and ends up happily at the end. And it's called Jumio and Roliet, Jumio and Roliet. The names from their Maggio and...
I love how you explain in the book how they got their specific names. It's pretty wonderful.
Anyway, so that's... I don't think you've ever seen a book.
Nope.
And at the end, you really say, oh, it's very... The last line is... I love this last line. He's a damaged, he's in the war. By the way, I got this from somebody I know, one publisher. He never got to know his father because his father was a helicopter pilot during the Vietnam War, helping people out of the...
right.
And he crashed and died.
Right.
And Larry never saw his father. And his mother had 5 boys to raise without a father. So I have that at the end, but I made it a happy ending where he's laying hurt, bandaged, and she's a nurse, and he hears her voice and says, Mumiut. And we can't say Jew. And she said, do you mean Ruliut? And he nods. And Mumiut kissed the bandaged face of her future husband, a face she would kiss 6,675,837 and one more times in their long, happy life, raising 2 boys and 2 girls and twin boys, because he had a twin brother. This guy, Larry.
That is lovely.
He's publishing.
What a wonderful tribute to.
No, in the end, because I'm an atheist, I recommend... should I read this?
Please.
Chapter 23, The Almighty. There are 15 things about the Almighty which are never mentioned anywhere. I particularly know that he has a chronic back condition. His knee joints ache. He's allergic to shellfish and mustard. His prostate is moderately enlarged. He often sings off key. He hates wars but can't think of a way to stop them. He loves to check out a woman's legs as she passes by. He is upset by the unfair distribution of wealth. He loves to laugh. He gets goosebumps when a great tenor hits a high C. He hates that comedies rarely, if ever, win Oscars. He loves sushi, especially unagi. He hates talking to anyone wearing a tongue ring. He would like to replace the 10 Commandments with one commandment that covers everything. Thou shalt not hurt anybody. How do I know these things about God? I am man, and I was told that he made me in his image. And here I recommend you just put your own picture and your own foibles.
Yeah.
And that's who God looks like. Looks like you.
He looks like a very young Carl Reiner.
Yes.
Dashing, I might add.
Yes, right.
And the very last thing I will say to you on this particular day, when Alan Brady took off his wig on television on the Dick Van Dyke Show, it was the first time I personally knew that someone could take off fake hair. When I was so young that I saw an episode of Dick Van Dyke and your character, Alan Brady, took off his wig, I didn't know what happened. I didn't understand why one was able to take off their hair.
But
it had to be explained to me. Well, that's not his real hair.
Well, the interesting thing is that Alan Brady and I were very different in one area, in all areas. The biggest area was that I never wore my hair unless I told people. If I were wearing it, I would say, I'm wearing them, on television.
Right.
And I always, it was Fred McMurray who called me and said, I see you wear your hair sometimes. I said, how do you, he wore a toupee. How do you decide when to wear it? I says, if it's an international television show, I'll wear it,
Uh-huh.
and only because it's like putting on a tuxedo. It's your dress up.
I see.
It's
Right.
Part of the dress up.
Right.
But I said I never wear it where I don't tell the audience I'm wearing.
Right.
I'm wearing my toupee tonight. It's a special night.
You remind me that Jason Alexander, who of course ended up working for your son Rob on Seinfeld, after being famously a bald man, showed up one week to my weekly poker game wearing a piece. And the players, it took a while for anyone to actually ask, but eventually someone asked, so, you're a famous guy for not having hair. Why are you wearing the piece? He said, I just like the way it looks. So I'm going to wear it for a little while.
Did he wear it every
So he
night?
wore it around for a couple of weeks.
And that's it.
Yeah. He wore it for a movie. He liked the way it looked. And he said, I'm going to keep it on for a couple of weeks. Walk around life with some hair.
Well, give me one impression that you haven't done in a long time.
Oh, my. Well, you know what I realized the other day? I started doing an older Al Pacino. And because to me, this is what he sounds like now. At some point, he became an old black blues player. That's what his voice sounds like. And then I realized if I just speed it up, and I speed up a little bit more, I realize it sounds a little bit like Mel Brooks. There it is.
That's fun.
Yeah, so a strange transition that I stumbled across the other day in the bathroom.
Gee, I
share it with you now.
I haven't done impressions in so long. What I remember doing James Stewart, I was able to do him
Yes.
very well at times.
Very, very spot on. He was.
I was at a party with him once, and we were talking, and I would tell him how much I loved him. And it was in the Vietnam War days, and I told him how I felt about the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
He turned his back to me, and we didn't speak anymore.
That was it.
Whoa.
He'd had enough.
Well, he was a general, or something. He had to support his...
Pro-war and under any circumstance.
Yeah, well,
Sure.
he had to support the troops, yeah.
Sure. Well, again, Carl, for the fourth time, I thank you so much for allowing us into your home.
Okay.
Jamie and I are going to come back for movie night and
yes.
see Random Harvest.
Yes. Oh, my God, I can't wait.
Yeah, and it was pointed out to me by you regarding this movie because the next couple of books you're putting out, which I find unbelievably original and inspiring, are a collection of all the movies from when you were 95, when you're 96, you're talking about. These are your picks.
The first one is about every movie I saw since I was 6 years old. We have a poster of it and four still shots from the movie.
Yeah,
and it's one for the libraries, I think.
I was just looking at it upstairs. You were kind enough to show it to me, just thumbing through several pages, and I realized this is something that anyone really who's reached a certain plateau of success in film and as a director yourself, very successful, should put out a book of their favorite movies.
Of course.
Because as you were saying, it's the movies we watch from a very young age to present that really designed our own point of view.
What's your favorite movie of all time?
Animal Crackers, Marx Brothers.
Yours?
National Lampoon's Vacation, directed by Harold Ramis and written by John Hughes.
Yeah.
That was a goodie.
And for me, it's The In-Laws.
The In-Laws?
Yeah, The In-Laws, Alan Arkin and Peter Falk.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Andy Bergman.
I keep remembering them every once in a while. I put one in today I forgot all about.
Yeah.
One was Topsy Turvy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're coming to see Random
Harvest.
Yes.
Well,
Well, Ronald Coleman.
And Greer Garson. If you've never seen it, maybe the best love story ever written.
Oh, well, you couldn't get a better recommendation than that. All right.
You can leave these if you don't want to take them with you.
Yeah, no, we'll leave behind the microphones. There's our interview with the great Carl Reiner. Jamie, Sam, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes,
for
it's a pleasure.
Making the trek, and thank you, Carl, very much for allowing us into your home. That's it for now. Until next time, and as always, get out of my face.